Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanativrandasya Gnananjalashalakaya Chakshunulamitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Vitapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganargita Shri Sagana. Okay. Chirupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parejana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lita Shri Vishakamitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopakanta Radha Kanta Namaste Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhishcha कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
Thank you so much, Prabhu. You want to start, Prabhu? Hare Krishna, Pranjal Prabhu, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Chapter 15, The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Vruddva Moolam Adhakshaham Ashvatam Prabhur Avyayam Chandasmi Chandamsi Yasya Pranani Yastam Veda Savedat with synonyms. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Urdhva Moolam, with roots above, Adha, downwards, Shakham, branches, Ashwatham, banyan tree, Brahm, Prabhu, said, Avyayam, eternal, Chandamsi, Vedic hymns, Yasya, of which Pranani, the leaves, Yaha, anyone them that Veda knows, Saha he, Veda with the knowers of the Vedas. Translation. The Supreme Personality of God, it said, there is a banyan tree which has its root upward and its branches downward, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Purport. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. And the tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extraction should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement, and up to the 13th chapter we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now the basic principle of devotional service is attach his basic service basic principle of devotion service is detachment from material activities and attachment to transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substances, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represents the results of the living entities activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward, but there is such a thing that a tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as the tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree truly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree being the reflection of the real tree is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Panchamaha Bhuta, then the 10 of essences, the Shendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world. If Brahma is the center of all manifestations in this material world, is a manifestation of the center by 108, 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is a perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality, the Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord Himself, and that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation in His material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from when the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas, he is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the Supreme, disclosed by the personality of Godhead Himself, it is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world. Text 2. Adas krodhavam rakshatastasya sakham guna pravardha vishaya pravalha अधश्चमूलन्ये अनुस्तनानि कर्मानुबन्धन्ति मनुष्यलोके. Synonyms: adha, downward; cha and urdhvam, upward; prashtha, extended; tasya, its; sakha, branches; guna, modes of material nature; pravardha, develop, developed; vishaya, sense objects; pravala, twigs; adha, downward; cha and mulani, roots; anustanani, extended; karma, according to work; anubandhani, bound; Manushya Loke, in the world of human society. Translation: the branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature: the twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Purport by Sri Prabhupada. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches are spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities such as human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, fairies, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, when the modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested in that proportion. The of the tree are twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and by the senses we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The source of the senses, the ears, the nose, eyes, etc., is considered to be the upper twigs. Turn to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The living leaves are bound, form, touch the sense objects. The roots, which are subsidiary, are the byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. Those we develop attachment and aversion. The tendency toward piety and impiety are considered to be the secondary roots, spreading in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of various activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Text 3 and 4. Narupam asyeha ततोपलभ्यते नन्तो न चदिर्न च संप्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थाम्बेनं सुविरुद्धमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा तथा पदं तत् परिमर्गितव्यं यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूय तम् एव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये त्यक्त्वा प्रवृत्य पश्चात् पुराणानि synonyms. Not Rupam form Asya of this tree. I am him. Sorry. In this, Tata also Upalabhyate can be perceived. Na never, Antha, and Na never, Cha also the beginning, Na never, Cha also Samprastista, Sampratishtha, Samprastishta, the foundation, Ashwattham, banyan tree, Enam, this Suviruddha, strongly, Moolam, rooted, Asanga, Shastrena, by the weapon of detachment, padam, situation, that pari, parim, parim, parimargitvayam has to be searched out. Yasmin, where gataha going na never nivartani nivartanti comes back. Bhuya again tam to him. Eva certainly cha also adyam original Purusham the supreme representative Godhead. Prapadye surrender yataha from whom pravart pravartiha pravartihi beginning prastra pras, pras, prasrata extension Purani very old translation the real form of this uh, okay the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which having once gone one never returns, and their surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead from whom everything has begun and in whom everything is embedding since time immemorial. Purport. It is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world. Since the root is upwards, the extension of the real tree is at the other end. No one can see how far the tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. Yet one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father. My father is the son of such and such a person, etc. By researching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the end of research work. One has to search out the origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality, and by knowledge, one can cut off the action and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asanga is very important in this connection because attachment for sense enjoyment and lording uh, it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge knowledge. As a result of such discussion in the association of devotees, one comes to the supreme personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is surrender to him. The description of that place when going no one returns to this false reflected tree is given here. The supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain favor of the personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender, and this is a result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. Here is the cause of this extension of this material world. This is already explained by the Lord himself. Ham sarvasya prabha. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of this strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders onto Krishna, he becomes detached automatically from this material extension. Thank you, Prabhu. Who wants to continue?
Prabhu, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Haribol. May I, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Shubham Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Luvesh Prabhu, and Varun Prabhu. Dandat
Hare
Pranam,
Krishna,
Jai
Hare
Prabhupada.
Ram Prabhu,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, dear
Krishna,
devotees, please accept my obeisances. Krishna Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
For joining Prabhu, Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, bro, Dhanavad Pranam.
Dandat
Jai Shri
Pranam,
Prabhupada. Haribol.
Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhu, please inform me when class is starting, because some day you start at 6 p.m. and some day 6:30, some day 7. So I am little confused.
Yes, Prabhu. Or maybe I didn't tag you, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. I thought I put everything, but there's so many that sometimes one goes away. Yeah, I'll next time tag you. Make sure you're the first one that I tag. Sorry, Prabhu.
Prabhu is asking also if there is actually a fixed time for these sessions, reading sessions or not.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
It was fixed time was 20 minutes ago starting, but sometimes it can change for 30 minutes before or after.
Okay,
Okay,
Prabhu.
Prabhu, okay.
So who wants to?
निर्मोहजिता संगदोषा अध्यात्मा नित्या विनिवृत्तकमा ध्वान्वैर्विमुक्ता सुखा दुःखा संज्ञैर् गच्छन्ति अमुधा पदम् अव्ययम् तत् nir without, mana respect, moha illusion, jita having conquered, sangha association, dosha faulty, adhyatma spiritual, nitya eternity, vinivritta associated, kama lusts, dvandva with duality, vimukta liberated, sukha dukha happiness and distress. Samgyai, is that how you pronounce it? Samgyai?
Sangnyahi.
Samyahi, named. Gachanti attains. Amudah, unbewildered. Padam, situation. Avyayam, eternal. Tat, that. Prabhu's one question before I proceed. I felt this verse was like the meter, the rhyme, like the number of syllables is a bit different from the other verses.
Yeah,
Um,
it will be Vishnu.
Yeah, this is 12.
Oh, 12. Oh, then Jagatya.
yeah, so I wasn't sure how
Wait,
exactly
is it
they.
11 or
It's 11, Prabhu. It's 11.
11, not 12?
Yeah, Vishnu fits.
So this one is not Anushtup Chanda. Anushtup Chanda means 8 syllables per line. This is 11. Uh, do you know how to chant the 11 syllabled ones, Prabhu?
No, Prabhu, that's what I was curious about.
Okay.
How?
So you can chant the 11 syllabled verses like this. Sami Prabhu, can I chant?
Yes, Prabhu.
Demonstrate? Okay. So the way you chant these 11 syllable verses are as follows. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha samjnair gacchantya mudha padam avyayam yat.
Oh, lovely, Prabhu. Yes,
Hari
I've
Bol.
Tattva Prabhu actually recited like this, and I wasn't sure why sometimes he would do it like this.
Yes, Prabhu, now you
Yes,
know.
Prabhu.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes.
Translation. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is freed from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he's always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering that the land, this earth, belongs to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by the familial, social, and national affections. These fake associations bind one to the material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has the understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 6. नातद्भास्यते सूर्यो न शशाङ्को न पवकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धामा paramam mama. Na, not. Tat, that. Bhasyate, illuminates. Surya, sun. No, nor. Shashanka, the moon. Na, nor. Pavaka, fire. Electricity. Yat, where. Gatva, going. Na, never. Nivartante, comes back. Tat dhama, that abode. Paramam, supreme. Mama, my. Translation. That abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Lok, Golok Vrindavan, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous, but all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets, called Vaikunthas, constitutes the shining sky known as Brahmayoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan. As long as a living entity is in this material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he... sorry, Prabhus, just a moment. I have someone at the door.
Yep.
I'll continue in a moment. Okay. As long as the living entity is in this dark material world, he's in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky, cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there's no chance of him coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of the material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes the associate with the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to the eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional. Sorry. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service, as described in the 12th chapter, is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by the material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. The words paramam mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord. But the spiritual world is paramam, full of six opulences. In the Upanishads, it is confirmed that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine or moonshine, for the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Text number 7. Mame vamso jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shashthane nindrani nindriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Mama, my, eva, certainly. Amsah, fragmental particles. Jiva loke, world of conditional life. Jiva bhuta, the conditional living entities. Sanatana, eternal. Mana, mind. Sasthani, six. Shashthani, six. Indriyani, senses. Prakriti, material nature. Sthani, situated. Karshati, struggling hard. Translation: the living entities in this conditional world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditional life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai, Haribo.
Jai.
Purport: in this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life, and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. Prabhu, what is the first expansion?
Mahavishnu, right?
Yeah, but then why is the second expansion the living entities? I'm not sure how the first and the second are.
So, in a more general sense, the very first expansion are the Vishnu Tattvas, right? And then after that, the second expansion, after all the Vishnu Tattvas, which includes even Mahavishnu and all the other, sub expansions, after these Vishnu Tattva expansions comes the Jiva Tattva expansion. Then after that comes the material ingredients like earth, water, fire, air, all that.
Wait, the Jeev Tattva expansions are what exactly? That would
So
um
so Jiva Tattva, we are Jiva Tattva. Second,
yes. So first you
yeah.
have up until Shirodaksha Vishnu or no, Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
No,
Or
up until Shirodaksha only, you were right. Shirodaksha
Shirodaksha.
up until that, yeah.
And then you have the Jeev Tattva. Then you have the basically the living entities, and then you have the material coverings, basically.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
Okay, understood. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and the living entities are separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Ram, Narasimhadev, Vishnumurti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternal servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual entities of the Godhead, are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities. As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities have also fragmental qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity has an individual soul, his personal individuality, and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. And by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal, as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from the material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. The living entities, not only the human beings and cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up, as though shackled by iron chains. He is bound by the false ego. And the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body, with the mind and the senses. And when he is liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyandi Nayana Shruti. Sava Esha Brahmanishta Idam Sariram Martyam Atisraja Brahmabhisampadya Brahmana Pashyati Brahmana Shrinoti Brahmane Vedam Sarvam Anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body. And in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. In Smriti, it is also understood that the spiritual planets everyone lives in, bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godheads. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnumurti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Mame Vamsa, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, is also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word sanatana is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that dehino shminyatha, in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one. just as the parts and parcels of gold are also gold. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Would anyone like to read?
Haribol, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Prabhu,
so
can I
continue
read?
if you want.
Who
I'll
will
read.
read?
Yeah, I'm reading. Yeah.
Oh,
By the way, Sami Prabhu, here the winds are literally going on like the universal form, like wind, hurricane kind of vibe.
yes, Prabhu. We had yesterday also. I was in middle of tornado.
Oh, very well. All right. Text 8. Oh, Barun Prabhu also wants to read next. Yes, Prabhu, you can read after me. Hari bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribol.
शरीरं यद्वाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानवीशयात् वायुर्गन्धानिवाशयात् बोल. Synonyms: Shariram, body. Yat, as much as. Avapnoti, gets. Yat, that which. Cha, also. Api, virtually. Utkramati, gives up. Ishvaraha, the Lord of the body. Grihitva, taken. Etani, all these. Samyati, Samyati, goes away. Vayuhu, air. Gandhan, smell. Eva, like. Ashayat, from the flower. Translation: the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Purport: here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. No. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karati, or struggle for existence. Text 9. Shrotram chakshuः sparshanam cha rasanam grahanameva cha adhishthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. Synonyms: Shrotram, ears. Chakshuhu, eyes. Sparshanam, touch. Cha, also. Rasanam, tongue. Grihanam, smelling power. Eva, also. Cha, and. Adhishthaya, being situated. Manaha, mind. Cha, also. Ayam, this. Vishayan, sense objects. Upasevate, enjoys. Translation: the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue, and nose and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Purport: in other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real Krishna consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When, therefore, one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 8,400,000 species. Text 10. उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं भापि भुञ्जानं वागुणान्वितं विमूढा नानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः. Utkramantam, quitting the body. Sthitam, situated in the body. Vapi, either. Bhunjanam, enjoying. Va, or. Guna anvitam, under the spell of the modes of material nature. Vimudhaha, foolish persons. Na, never. Anupashyanti, can see. Pashyanti, one can see. Jnana chakshushaha, one who has the eyes of knowledge. Translation. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of material nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Purport. The word jnana chakshushaha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances and enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. Persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power of understanding their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. So those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in this material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give their knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. I'll read one more and then Varun Prabhu can continue. Yatanto yoginashchainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatanto vyakritatmano nainam pasyantyachetasaha. Synonyms: yatantaha, endeavoring; yoginaha, transcendentalists; cha, also; enam, this; pashyanti, can see; atmani, in the self; avasthitam, situated; yatantaha, although endeavoring; api, although; akrita atmanaha, without self-realization; na, does not; enam, this; pashyanti, can see; achetasaha, undeveloped mind. Translation: the endeavoring transcendentalist who is situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. Purport: there are many transcendentalists in the path of spiritual self-realization, but one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yoginaha is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis and there are many so-called associations of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied that the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatantopya kritatmanaha. Yatantopya kritatmanaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of the transmigration of the soul. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self, the world, and the Supreme Lord, in other words, the Bhakti yogis, those engaged in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness, can understand how things are taking place. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Varun Prabhu, you can take over.
Very good. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Oh, Prabhu, I need to leave, but thank you so much for your association.
So much for association, Jai
Thank you very
Prabhu.
much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Text 12. Yad adityagatam tejo jagadbhashyate akhilam yachandramasi yachagno tattejo vidhimamakam. Synonyms. Yat, that which. Adityagatam, in the sunshine. Tejaha, splendor. Jagat, the whole world. Bhasayate, illuminates. Akhilam, entirely. Yat, that which. Chandramasi, in the moon. Yat, that which. Cha, also. Agnav, in the fire. Tat, that. Tejaha, splendor. Vidhi, understand. Mamakam, from me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. Purport. The unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place. The beginning of knowledge can be established by understanding what the Lord explains here. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, and the splendor of electricity or fire are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and He is giving herewith the hint how they can come back to Godhead, back to home. From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universes and solar systems, and there are different suns, moons, and planets also. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, the activities of human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their foodstuff, they set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. So, if one can understand that the light and splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. By the moonshine, all the vegetables are nourished. The moonshine is so pleasing that people can easily understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Without His mercy, there cannot be sun. Without His mercy, there cannot be moon. And without His mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, and fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul. Text 13. गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयामि अहम ओजसा पुष्णामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः. Synonyms. Gam, the planets. Avishya, entering. Cha, also. Bhutani, living entities. Dharayami, sustaining. Aham, I. Ojasa, by my energy. Pushnami, nourishing. Cha, and Aushadhi, all vegetables. Sarva, sarva, all. Soma, the moon. Bhutva, becoming. Rasa Atmaka, supplying the juice. Translation. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. Purport. It is understood that all the planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord. The Lord enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. That is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. It is said there that one plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, enters into the planets, the universe, the living entity, and even into the atom. So, due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water, but when the living spark is out of the body and the body is dead, it sinks. Of course, when it is decomposed, it floats just like straw and other things, but as soon as the man is dead, he at once sinks in the water. Similarly, all these planets are floating in space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there is no possibility of the dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. Similarly, these planets which are floating in the air are actually held in the fist of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. By his strength and energy, all moving and non unmoving things stay in their place. It is said that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. Were it not for him, all the planets would scatter like dust in air and perish. Similarly, it is due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to the moon's influence, the vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word rasatmaka is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. Text 40. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashrita Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. Synonyms: Aham, I, Vaishvanarah, by my plenary portion as the digesting fire, Bhutva, becoming, Praninam, of all living entities, Deham, body, Ashrita, situated, Prana, outgoing air, Apana, downgoing air, Samayukta, keep balance, Pachami, digest, Annam, foodstuff, Chaturvidham, four kinds of. Hmm. Translation: I am the fire of digestion in every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the four kinds of foodstuff. Purport: according to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all food sent there. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger, and when the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes, when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. In any case, this fire is representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedic mantras also confirm that the Supreme Lord or Brahman is situated in the form of fire within the stomach and is digesting all kinds of foodstuff. Therefore, since he is helping the digestion of all kinds of foodstuff, the living entity is not independent in the eating process. Unless the Supreme Lord helps him in digesting, there is no possibility of eating. He thus produces and digests foodstuff, and by his grace, we are enjoying life. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also confirmed. Sabdadibhyo Sabdadibhyo Anta Pratishthanach. The Lord is situated within sound and within the body, within the air, and even within the stomach as the digestive force. There are four kinds of foodstuff. Some are swallowed, some are chewed, some are licked up, and some are sucked. And he is the digestive force for all of them. Text 15. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matasmritirjnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. Synonyms: Sarvasya, of all living beings, Cha, and Aham, I, Hridhi, in the heart, Sannivishta, being situated, Matta, from me, Smriti, remembrance, Jnanam, knowledge, Apohanam Cha, and forgetfulness, Vedai, by the Vedas, Cha, also, Sarvai, all, Aham, I am, Eva, certainly, Vedya, knowable, Vedanta Krit, the compiler of the Vedanta, Vedavid, the knower of the Vedas. Eva, certainly, cha, and aham, I. Translation: I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Purport: the Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Hmm. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is not only worshipable as the impersonal Brahman, the supreme personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to the people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, the giver of knowledge in the form of Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good, God is all merciful. Anta pravishta shasta jananam. The living Shasta Jananam, the living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work, where he ended his last life. So, not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord, situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand Vedas from him. If one is serious to understand the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yosho Sarvair Vedair Giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performing Vedic rituals, discussing the Vedic philosophy, and worshipping the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas give us direction to understand Krishna and the process of understanding. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra confirms this in the following words: Tattu Samanvayat. One can attain perfection by understanding Vedic literature, and one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by performing the different processes. Thus, one can approach him and at the end attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, however, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of Vedas are clearly defined. Haribol. Someone
Debo.
can continue. Thank you very much.
Okay, now let's go to six Astakam prayers. Cheto darpanamarjanam pavamahadavagninirvapanam shreyah kairabachandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam bhutivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामगाय बहुधानि सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पितानि यमता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तो कृपा भगवान् ममापि दुर्दयो मे देशमिहाजनिनानुरागः
निनादपि सुनिचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुनामानेन मानदेन कीर्तनेन सदा हि
नन्दनं नन्दनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां मा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनि सरे महदात् भक्तिरय सुखे त्वयि
नैनन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थिततुलिसदृशं विचिन्तया
नयनं गगनशुद्धारया वदनं रुद्धया गिरा पुलकैर्जितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति।
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रावृषायतां शून्यतां जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे।
हर्षेशवापादरतं पिनस्तु मां मादर्शनर्महतं करोतु वा यथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्य सहेपनापरः
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Almighty Lord, I have no
Oh,
desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful woman, nor do I want any number of followers, only want you cause this devotional service birth after birth.
O son of
O son of
Maharajananda,
Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Ribhu Sri Siksastakam ki jai.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bahujanma Koreyadi Shavana Kirtan Tabutan Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many birds, he will not get the love of God. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. First offense to the holy name is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Second offense to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent to the name of the Lord Vishnu.
Third offense to disobey the order of spiritual master.
And considering the as an ordinary person, you can add to next step.
To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version.
If the offense is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination.
To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord.
When the offense commits sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord.
If the offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda.
Ninth offense to instruct a faithful person about the glories of the holy name. Tenth offense to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. That is
Let us offer
like
our praises until the
senses
Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the
full
fallen.
Vanchakaptarvasya kripasindhubhya eva cha pattanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah.
Vaishnava ki jai, Shri Prabhupada
Jai,
Prem
jai,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Prabhu, Jai Shri Prabhupada.